Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to give you all the details on what I'm going to call the accent light mod here on my Jayco Pinnacle. Now this is the 37 MDQS floor plan, and about a month ago I featured this mod in a video where I showcased 38 different mods and upgrades that I've done here on my Pinnacle. And I had a few asked questions about this particular mod, and so today I'm going to give you all the details. But basically this mod allows you to control the accent light down here in the toe kick of the bathroom vanity separate from the accent light here in the master bedroom suite. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'll real quickly go over the factory lighting setup that you get from Jayco, from the factory. And I believe this will apply to all the different Pinnacle floor plans, but definitely the ones that have a front bedroom layout like my 37 MDQS here. So you can see in the bedroom you get 4 puck lights on the ceiling. You get 2 more puck lights in the slide box, kind of like reading lights, looking down there on your bed area. And then you get these really nice accent lights here in the toe kick of this dresser here that shines down and puts kind of some ambient light there on the floor. And of course you can control all these lights off of these remotes that are tied into the B & Pro system. So you've got your bed ceiling, it's going to be those 4 puck lights on the bedroom ceiling. Then you've got your reading lights, those are going to be the 2 that are in the slide box there. And then you've got your accent light here, which is going to toggle the toe kick light here on this dresser. But that same switch that I just pressed, that accent light button, is also going to toggle the accent light here in the bathroom, the adjacent bathroom, the toe kick down here, along with this nice accent light that kind of frames the sink opening here. And so when I toggle the bed bath accent, you're going to notice that the bathroom accent lights here, along with the bedroom accent lights, they both toggle on and off at the same time. And the problem with this is, what if you want to leave the bed bath accent on at night, perhaps at a dim setting? You can dim all these, by the way, but then you want to turn off your bedroom accent light here. Well, you can't, because the way Jayco set it up, these are all wired together on the same switch. So if one is off, then they're all going to be off. If one is on, they're all going to be on. And so that was precisely the inspiration behind this particular mod. You know, at night I wanted to be able to turn off all of these lights here and then use the bed bath accent light on the dimmest setting. You can see what that looks like here. This is on the dimmest setting, but I wanted to use this kind of like a night light here in the bathroom. So super helpful if you need to get up in the middle of the night and use the bathroom, or your kids for that matter. It's really the perfect amount of light. In fact, I especially like how it even lights up around the sink bowl. It just makes it really easy to see what you're doing without, you know, waking yourself up entirely. Speaking of which, this is a 2021 model, and it's my understanding on the 2022 units that they did away with the undermount sink here, and instead they replaced this with a kind of a vessel style sink that sits on top of the countertop. And so I'm not sure if in the newer 2022s you have any kind of accent light around the sink. In fact, if you're watching this and you have one of the newer units with that sink that sits on top of your countertop, let us know if you have any kind of accent light like this in the bathroom sink, or if it's just the toe kick accent light there below in your unit. But I really do like the way this lights up the space. The problem is, for me, with the bedroom accent light being on here as well, you know, this is the dimmest setting, and believe it or not, it's not quite dark out, it's not quite dusk, but when it is dark all the way, this still is pretty bright, and it reflects off the floor and then goes up to the ceiling. And for me, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and all that light would kind of trick my body into thinking that the sun was coming up, and so I'd have a really hard time falling asleep. So I'm kind of picky. I like things to be really dark at nighttime, and so I had to think of a way, how can I keep these bathroom accent lights on but yet kill the lights here in the bedroom? And so that is why I came up with this rocker switch right up here that enables me to turn these lights off here in the bedroom. Now this is kind of like an inline switch. It doesn't function entirely separate from the bathroom accent lights. In other words, I have to have either the bathroom lights on and the bedroom lights on, or the bathroom lights on and the bedroom lights off. I can't have the bedroom lights on by themselves and have the bathroom lights off. It's got to be either both of them or just the bathroom. But I still really like the functionality, and so that is what I'm going to walk you through how to do this particular mod on your Pinnacle. All right, well, let me give you the details and kind of walk you through this particular mod. And I'll just say up front, if you don't feel as comfortable doing DIY stuff or electrical stuff on your RV, I think this project, this mod in particular, is a good starting point. You know, as you'll see here in just a minute, it is pretty straightforward, and so I think the average person can do this. But kind of a high-level overview, as you know, these lights here, the accent lights, are controlled by the BM Pro system. And so basically, there's a BM Pro node below our feet. It's almost directly below our feet here in the basement storage. And it's basically like a giant switch. And so that BM Pro node, every time that we hit the accent button on and off, it's sending 12 volts to the bathroom accent lights here on the sink in the toe kick area, but then also in here to the bedroom. And so basically all we have to do is interrupt that connection between the bathroom and the bedroom, and then that's where that switch comes into play. And so basically the switch here is just interrupting that connection between the bathroom lights and the bedroom. Now in my floor plan here, again, this is the 37 MDQS, it's a front bedroom layout. The power goes first from the BM Pro node down below here and runs first to the bathroom accent lights. And so that's perfect because, you know, we just want to eliminate and cut out the bedroom accent light as opposed to the opposite. And that just makes this project a lot easier because we don't have to mess with any of the power going from the node to the bathroom accent lights here. So again, in my floor plan, it goes first here from the node to the bathroom, and then second, it runs over here to the bedroom accent light. Now to get access here, you don't have to dismantle anything or take everything apart. In fact, all you have to do is just remove the two drawers here on the dresser on the right side. And of course, you know, you can do that easily just by pushing down on this little black lever here on both sides of the drawer slide, and then that will release the drawers there so you can pull them out. So I've already done that here on the right side. Let's take a closer look though at the wires that we're going to be dealing with today. So of course you've got your LED strip down here below, and it's just pushed into a channel. And then right here you've got the two wires that are running to the LED strip. You've got a black wire, and that's going to be your 12 volts, your hot wire. And then you've got this white wire, which is going to be your ground. Now what you're looking at down here below with the connectors is after I've made the modification, but before, this black wire that's feeding power to the LED strip below was connected directly to this blue and white striped wire. And so this blue and white striped wire ultimately comes from the BM Pro node, but it makes a pit stop first in the bathroom area for the accent lights there. And so this is coming from the bathroom area, and it's carrying that 12 volt power. So every time you flip the switch on the accent light, then it's basically turning on and off the 12 volt power through this blue and white wire. So that's what was connected directly to the black wire here feeding the LED strip. So of course Jayco uses these little Wago connectors, and I've talked about these in other videos. I really like these. I'm a big fan of them because they're really easy, especially here in our case making mods like today. But all you do is just flip up these little levers here, and then that'll allow you to release the wires that are in here. So all I had to do to separate the LED strip here in the bedroom from the bathroom was simply disconnect with these Wago connectors the black wire coming from the LED strip to the blue wire that was supplying the power. So that's all I had to do was disconnect that. Now, if we stop there, that's great because now we've disconnected the power here going to the LED strip in the bedroom. But if we stop there, that means every time you want to have lights on here in your bedroom accent, you're going to have to go in here and push in that black wire from the LED strip to your Wago connector and the power. So not super convenient because then you're having to pull out your drawers every time and do all that. And so that is where adding a switch comes in handy up here. So let's talk about this switch here, and first I'll cover the location and the mounting, and then we'll talk about the actual wiring. So on the location, I wanted to choose somewhere that was intuitive, you know, especially at nighttime if you're fumbling around looking for something. I want it to be real easy to reach. Now ideally I would have put the switch in the vertical orientation. You know, most switches when you flip up it's on and then down it's off, but this one I was forced to put it in the horizontal location because, as you know, up here there's this hidden storage compartment that kind of drops down into the top of the dresser, and so there wasn't quite enough room to squeeze that switch in vertically. In fact, you can see here on the back side I actually had to notch into this framing member that supports the floor for that hidden compartment ever so slightly, even at that horizontal location. So I did have to put it in that horizontal position. Ideally it would have been vertical, but I still think it works out pretty good. For me, you know, putting it up here made more sense than dropping it down here and then putting it in the vertical position. I'm a pretty tall guy, and so wanted something that I didn't have to bend over too far to to reach there. But again, that's your preference. You certainly could put it over here in the horizontal position, or even down here, anywhere in that same vertical position that we talked about before. Now, as far as cutting into the dresser, into the wood to make that hole for the switch, I used one of my favorite tools. This is an oscillating multi-tool. And what I love about these is they're so easy to control, especially when you need to do real precise cuts. It's basically just a blade here that goes back and forth at a very high speed, and they're just so easy to control, especially when you're cutting in an awkward position where the wood is already mounted here in a vertical position. And you can, plunge with this. You can cut straight lines real easily. So I'm a big fan of this. This is really, I think, the tool of choice to make that hole there, even compared to, pre-drilling a hole and then using a jigsaw. This just, to me, is a lot safer and a lot easier. So definitely recommend getting one of these if you don't have one already. Pretty much any brand makes them. This one's made by Ryobi, but you can get them in pretty much any brand nowadays. So all I did is use some painter's tape to mark the opening that I was going to cut, and then just use that painter's tape to cut along with the multi-tool here. Now, this blade on here is a lot bigger than the one that I used. The one that I used when I cut here was probably about half this size here. It's a pretty small opening, so you don't need a big blade here. It only needs to be about 1 inch or so wide, and that'll give you a lot of control there. So you can just carefully cut out that opening, and then you'll do the same thing on the back side here. Again, I had to trim out just a little bit from this framing member above to make room for the switch, but this multi-tool is absolutely perfect for that. You just take your time and just carefully cut away until you've got the hole to the desired size. All right, and last, let's talk about the actual wiring for the switch itself. Now, an easy way of thinking of a 12-volt switch is it's basically just connecting and disconnecting 2 wires. So when the switch is off, the 2 wires are disconnected. When the switch is on, it's just connecting those 2 wires together. And so that's all that's coming out of the back of here. You can see it's just 2 wires, a black and a red. Now remember down here, like I talked about earlier, the LED strip has a black wire. We'll call that the load that's feeding the LED strip down here. And then there's this blue and white wire, which is the hot wire, the 12 volts coming ultimately from the BM Pro node. And so this was originally connected to the black load that's going into the LED strip. So I went ahead and disconnected that earlier. And that's super easy using these Wago connectors. You just flip up one of these levers here, and then the wires will slide out for that particular terminal there. So I went ahead and did that. So basically all we have to do here is extend our 12 volt, our hot wire, and then our load wire coming out of the back of the LED strip. We just have to extend those wires up to the actual switch up there. And so to do that, I just bought some of this 16 gauge 12 volt wire. I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but this is kind of my favorite go-to 16 gauge wire. Super handy to have a spool of this around for doing mods and stuff in the RV. And what I like about this so much is it's got a pretty decent thick jacket insulation on the main wires themselves, but I like how it has this outer insulation, kind of another jacket on the outside of them, kind of double protection. And it almost reminds me of, Romex that you'd find in your house. In fact, right here, you can see this is 120 volt right here. So this is Romex. Now there's actually 3 wires inside of here, but it kind of looks very similar to that. And so I just like the way this looks. And by the way, I'll put links to all the things that I'm showing you here in the description below. But basically, I just had to get this wire and extend the hot wire down here and then the load that's going into the LED strip. And so you can do that by just getting another Wago connector. Of course, you can use the existing one that they already had down here. And so I just got a second Wago connector, and I chose to do black on my new wire to the hot wire. That just makes sense to me. I've kind of gotten used to black being that hot wire, and then red for me makes sense to be a load. And so you can see back behind here, this red wire is my load, and that goes to this black wire that goes into the back of the LED strip. So I basically just use those Wago connectors to extend up here, and you can see, you can kind of trace that white 12 volt wire, and it goes all the way up here into the back of the switch there. And again, on the back of the switch, there's just 2 terminals. Doesn't matter which side either wire goes into. And the terminals are blade style terminals. And so basically you do have to crimp on kind of a blade style connector to then push onto those blade terminals. It's kind of similar to the fuses in your fuse box. And so I'll put a link as well to these blade style connectors. They're really easy. They're just crimp on. So you just, trim back the insulation on your wire, put the blade style connector on there and then just use your wire stripper that most of them have, you know, a crimping tool on it, or a pliers at the right force and the right amount to crimp on that blade style connector. Now the link that I'm going to give you in the description below are to some that have they're kind of classified as waterproof connectors, and the reason I like those, even though we're not in an environment where waterproofing is necessary, they put Hink Shrink tubing on the end of the connectors so that when you're done you can melt that connector around the existing wire. And for me, that just gives me a little bit of extra protection if, you know, maybe the crimp wasn't done as well and it wants to slide out of there. Then you've got that tubing, kind of that insulation on that blade style connector that's melted and kind of fashioned itself around the wire, so you've got kind of another layer of protection to keep that wire on there. But once you get those crimped and on, you just put them onto the back of the switch there. Again, it doesn't matter which side, either the black or the red goes on. And so basically, when you flip on that switch, when you go on and off here, it is just separating and attaching those two wires together repeatedly, and that's all that the switch is doing there. Now, before I put everything back together, if you're wondering what all this spray foam is doing back here, that's something that I added. I noticed in the winter months I could feel a pretty strong draft of cold air coming out of this toe kick area, but really more so on the left side behind this carpeted chase, and that's just hiding the, you know, the sewer and the hot and cold water lines that go to the washer dryer there in the closet. And so that same space, all those penetrations ultimately connect to where the kingpin, you know, drops out of the front. And so there is some weather stripping there, you probably noticed, that goes around your kingpin, and so that kind of helps some of that cold air not come in, but there's still a lot of potential for air to leak in. And so I think what was happening is that cold air was coming in through the kingpin and then kind of leaking across all those penetrations and coming in here. So you can get yourself a can of spray foam while you're working in here and, you know, seal that up. Now this penetration here is actually going down to the basement storage, so it's not as important. But I went ahead and sealed that up because I'm not really wanting to have air transfer between my basement storage and my living space. I want to minimize that, you know, as much as possible. Now, just to be clear, there's going to be some of that naturally because of the way your furnace is designed in the RV, since they don't have dedicated returns where they suck air in. There's going to be some leaking going on between where the furnace is and your living space. It just has to be that way in order to heat your RV. So, but this is nowhere near where the furnace is, so I went ahead and sealed that up. And more importantly, you can seal up behind the carpeted chase here where those penetrations are, but then also around the actual kingpin itself, the source. And that way you can cut down, you know, on the drafts there. I noticed quite an improvement after I sealed all that up. Well, all right, I think that's just about it on this particular mod. So in summary, when all is said and done, you'll be able to use your accent button here on the BM Pro system to turn off the toe kick light down here in the bedroom, along with the toe kick and accent lights here in the bathroom. And then if you turn everything back on, you can now separate and turn off the accent light here, the toe kick light in the bedroom. And so that is the finished product, all while keeping the accent light on in the bathroom at the same time there. So I hope you found this video helpful. As always, if you have any questions or I left any details out, don't hesitate to drop me a note in the comments below. If you're not subscribed already, click that subscribe button. I'm going to be doing some other videos coming up here. I've gotten a lot of requests on adding a dimmer switch like this one here in the bathroom, and so I'll probably do that one next, along with some other videos on my truck. If you didn't catch the video that I did on special ordering my Ram 3500, definitely check that one out. A lot of people have found that one helpful and avoiding some of the mistakes that I made in the past on other trucks. So as always, thanks for supporting the channel and using the affiliate links below. If you like this video, definitely give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.